Hey, how's it going, chat? Hope y'all are doing fine and dandy this week. I'm like so awkward, bro. I don't know what made me want to become a streamer, knowing I have zero people skills. I've got jokes, but I don't know about my people skills. So this week I'm actually on vacation from work, so that's why I'm streaming on a Monday and not on a Sunday. Because yesterday I was like, I do not feel like streaming. There's so many days where I'm like, I don't feel like it. Because, like, it's just, like, it can be so draining. It's like you're putting on a performance. But I try to just be myself most of the time, and then that, you know. So that's why I'm sort of shifting to the FE Mechanical, but this week we're talking about economics and ethics, and I actually have to also study and watch the lecture for statics, and I'll probably watch the lecture for dynamics, not dynamics, electricity and magnetism. That's what we're doing this week. Statics and electricity and magnetism will be the next video, but this video is economics and ethics. These are two pretty easy chapters, but also I like streaming because it's easier for me to put things on YouTube when I stream. And I kind of want to just do YouTube, but I already have built a following on Twitch, and I don't want to, abandon everyone. But also, I had my accounts like TikTok and Instagram, but I deleted them because I feel like it's better to just mainstream onto one platform. But Twitch does allow me to like sort of transfer easier, and you know, I can build a lot of content by streaming and just putting it on YouTube. So, anyways, back to the topic. Economics. So in economics there is a lot of vocabulary and tricky questions or equations, and then you have those flow maps that you have to know how to or produce. So like here, how I have these little arrows down and up, that's basically what that flow map is, or flow chart, whatever. And so some main topics that I went through were like expected value, cost benefit analysis, cash flow, machines, so current versus new machines, whether it's worth investing in them. And then for the ethics section, basically you just need to know that you need to protect the public safety. That's always the top priority. And then there's some ethical challenges that are sort of debatable that you might come across, but those won't really be on the exam. I just think they're good to think about. And then report illegal or unethical practice. That's the main thing, is you just need to report when someone's doing something bad. And then intellectual property. So this goes into ethics. You just need to know like what the different types of intellectual property are, and how you can violate them, and basically what they're there for. So jumping into economics, some vocabulary words. I don't know if they really have like, I don't know if I have the definitions in here, but I just think they're like words that you need to know and that should stand out to you when you're reading these problems. So like expected values, and when you're looking at these problems, always look for like years and interest, because you're gonna need that. That's how you calculate like everything. And economics is with interest and the amount of years, and then whatever cost versus savings you have. And then present worth, being able to go from like future worth, present worth, annual cost, that's all in a table in the FE exam handbook, but you need to understand how to set it up and go into those. But I'll talk about that with the tricky equations. So we have expected value, present worth, benefit cost analysis. So this is just where you're comparing the benefits to the cost. And you have a defender, which is your current system, the challenger, your alternative, and then the do nothing option, status quo. So benefit cost, make sure you don't forget that do nothing option, because it is an option where it costs you nothing to just stay where you are. And then the defender is basically the one that you're choosing, and then the challenger is the one that you're comparing it to. So sometimes you'll have different options to compare to. And then payback period is another one. You basically have the number of years, cash flow, and cumulative flow. So payback period, time it takes for an investment to regain its own initial cost through the annual benefits generated. So basically, it's how long it takes you to get your money back after an investment, after you spent money. And then there's things like equivalent uniform annual cost, whatever that means. No, it basically means like each year you get the same amount of money, or each year you spend the same amount of money. That's what annual cost is. So some of the tricky equations, I would say, are like expected value to present value. So if you look here, basically you take that, to get present worth, you take the negative first cost plus the revenue, which is, what is the revenue? That's a good question. That's costs minus the savings, right? Something like that. I forget. I'm trying to look at this and understand what the heck I wrote. Expected value equals present value times cash flow. So present worth equals negative first cost plus revenue times the P over A 10% for 10 years, which was in the problem. So let me pull up the table. Let me pull up the table and I'll show y'all. So it makes more sense instead of me just saying numbers. But look. I've got this all in a Google Classroom to sort of help me organize it. Let's see. So as you can see, this week or yesterday I did the economics and the ethics, and then this week we're doing statics and electricity and magnetism. So in the handbook, if we go to the economics section, where is she? Here. So if you look at this table, it says 2F given P. So whatever you're given goes on the denominator. So you're going backwards. You're going like here to here. I like to draw a little arrow to show where I'm coming from and where I'm going. So you're going from P to F. And then you don't even need these formulas. Don't even look at these formulas. Go down here to these tables. So our percentage is 10% and we have 10 years. So we're looking for the I value of 10% right here. And we go down to 10 years and we're going from annual to present. So A to P. So this would be our fraction or number that we multiply by the present value to get the present worth. Right? to get the expected value. Yeah. But that's how you can use that table. You'll have to use this table for a lot of other problems. And so it's just good to know how to use it. And there's also other equations in here. Let's see. I didn't have to do. Oh, here's benefit cost analysis. In a benefit cost analysis, the benefits B of a project should exceed the estimated cost C. So I'll go over that in a second. Depreciation, inflation, and then the nomenclature. So it's not really a big chapter. It's just got tables and stuff, mostly. But pretty straightforward with that table. This one is a little confusing, but it does show you like where you're going to where you're from, like what it is that you're doing. So maybe you can use this on the exam like better than how I'm describing it, but you just need these little symbols here. You don't I mean, if you wanted to do the formula you could, but it's just quicker to use the tables. But anyways, so let's go. So you have to take your first cost, annual savings, annual cost, and salvage. To get the expected value, you just multiply that by your interest rate. That's what you would get for your expected value. And then yeah. I feel like it's more of like a pattern thing. You just gotta understand the pattern and just use it. But okay, present worth equals negative first cost plus revenue times the decimal number plus salvage times that decimal number from annual to present and then future to present. So that salvage value is a future cost, and that annual cost is every year, so you gotta change all that to present to be able to get to the present worth. It's basically like getting all your values back to one value and then comparing. So benefit cost analysis, like we was talking about earlier, is benefits over cost. So change in benefits over change in cost. And if you get 1 or greater, then the choice that you made is profitable. But if it's under 1, then you need to change choices when comparing. So first, you rank them from least to largest in terms of initial investment. So just that first cost, just organize them from least to greatest. So at the top, you'll have that do nothing option. Don't forget about that do nothing option because it is very important. And then you'll have whatever alternative has the least initial cost, and then go from there. And then you'll compare the do nothing to your first option. So like we do like y2 minus y1, that's what you gotta do here. So you gotta take your alternative minus your do nothing option. So you gotta make sure that you set it up in order, or else you'll get like an opposite fraction than what you want to see. As you can see here, so you have b2 minus b do nothing. So you got to make sure your first option is on the right of your minus sign. What else? Oh. And payback. So current versus new machines. You just want to look at the annual maintenance cost and the initial cost and see how much it would cost you and which one costs less based on the number of parts that you're going to make. And then payback equals initial cost over the uniform annual benefits. So whatever benefits you get, you got to divide that by you got to divide the initial cost by the annual benefits. So change in cost over change in savings right here. And that should get you to where you need to go. And then, what else? Is there any more? And then these cash flow diagrams. So, like this one. They're pretty easy to set up, but sometimes you just gotta you don't know like what problems to set them up for. So, like the cash flow and payback period, you should probably set up those little maps for those. And make sure you include all the annual costs and the initial costs. And it should, make some sense. And remember that it starts at 0. Your line needs to start at 0, like 0 years. So whatever you do for that initial year is 0. And then you just add on to the arrows. And for this one, like an annual cost, you would just have that cost every year and it'll be uniform. So sometimes you'll have uniform flow, sometimes you'll have different kinds of flow. I don't know what the different kinds of flow are, but let me look at some of the problems I went through. Engineering economics, so future worth. You basically, to get the present worth or find the future worth, you go from present to future. Just find that little decimal number in that table, multiply it by the however much you invested. Present worth, similar. So here, I have that value, and then I pull this from that table, and then you just multiply that by your value. And you do the same sort of steps for present worth. Equivalent annual worth. What is the purpose of equivalent annual worth? Is particularly useful for comparing projects with different lifetimes, cash flow patterns, or investment requirements, providing a uniform annual measure of economic performance. Rate of return, ending value of initial over the initial times 100%. Annuities, basically uniform cash flow, and then cash types. So some definitions, some more definitions. Let me highlight these real quick for my own purpose. For my own sake, I gotta highlight them. I love having like some color coordination, but you gotta like make it more specific than what a lot of people do for color coordination. Like when I'm highlighting things, it's not always the same. Like I'll read through the chapter that I am working on, and then I'll create highlight coding based on that topic. Okay, fixed cost. Constant cost regardless of product or production. Variable cost is a cost that changes with production. Incremental cost due to one more unit. Average cost, cost per unit produced. And then sunk cost is cost incurred and unrecoverable. So pretty straightforward. Break-even analysis. A company has fixed cost, sell price, variable cost. So what I did is I just put this into an equation, with X being the number of units you make, and then you just solve the equation, and then you get the amount of units. So that's how much they would need to make to break even. Cost benefit analysis. Project costs, but expected to generate in benefits. This is cost benefit analysis. You do change in benefits over the change in costs, and if it's greater than 1, then it is a good deal. Life cycle costs, which project would be preferred? So assume equal performance and lifespan. You rank them high to low. B is higher initial investment. Wait, yeah. And then basically, if it's annual, if there's more things that are annual, convert it to annual, but if it's all over life, just convert it to over life, and then you just compare those. So, like, however much it would cost you for the whole cycle of the life of the machine, that's what you need to figure out. So, it's not going to be an annual cost, so if that makes sense. Most of these, like, are pretty indicative of what you actually need to do, like cost benefit analysis. You just need to compare the benefits and the costs. I mean, pretty straightforward. Life cycle cost. How much does it cost for the entire cycle, not just annually, but okay. Minimum cost decision. An engineer is comparing 3 manufacturing methods. Besides the purchase price, what additional economic factors should be included when determining the minimum cost alternative? I don't know. I don't exactly know the answer to this. Oh, hey, King Dylan. Can you. What? Can I ban you? Sure. First cost, annual saving, annual cost, salvage value, and probability. So that's what I put for that one. So that's pretty much all the things you need to know for the engineering economics section. So let me see. What did we go over? We went over vocabulary, tricky equations. Sometimes they're just a little tricky because, I mean, as you saw, I was struggling to read them. And it's just setting them up and knowing what you're given and what you need to find, and then doing whatever the question asks you to do. So, vocabulary, tricky equations, knowing how to do those, going from one value to another, and then flow maps. So we have expected value, cost benefit analysis, cash flow, and then machines, current versus new. So for ethics, ethics is pretty straightforward. It's basically do whatever is not illegal and do what a human would do and do what makes sense. Use your common sense abilities to answer these questions, but I'm just going to read through what I have written for my notes. So, ethics, highest to lowest priorities. Your first priority is the society or the public, the health of the public. And then the last priority is yourself. So, you want to care about the law, profession, client, firm, and other engineers before you care about yourself. Don't do work you aren't qualified for. I mean, if something is out of your wheelhouse, don't be going out there saying like, "Oh, I can do this," knowing that you can't. I mean, it's okay to not know everything and be able to say like, "I can't. I'm not qualified to do this." Always protect the interest of your client. Avoid conflict of interest. So if you have like a family member that you could contract for a job at your company, that might be a conflict of interest because maybe you're making money off of that job. So there you go. Avoid, never insult the reputation of a fellow engineer, however, report unethical and illegal behavior. So that gets into another one of our points. Just report things that are bad. I have no brain. What are you talking about? I'm talking about ethics for engineering. So I'm sort of making like some YouTube videos. That's sort of what this is for. Should not use unfair advantages. Can't criticize the engineer because you don't know all the facts. The distribution of info unless confidential. Always consider safety of the public. Notify proper authorities. And then some challenges. Oh, what the? some challenges, some ethical challenges that you might come across, which these aren't going to be questions, but I think they're interesting to think about, is issues with competitive bidding. So, like, competitive bidding, you can't really stop it. It's going to happen. Environmental protection, sustainability, national security versus personal privacy, and then issues with outsourcing. So, outsourcing, it might cost you less, but maybe it's not as ethical. So, there you go. Ethical is, and let's go through some of these questions because I don't know, maybe they're confusing, but I think they're pretty straightforward. And intellectual property is another one. So basically knowing the different kinds of intellectual property. So code ethics. What is engineers' primary professional obligation? Public safety. Conflict of interest. What's an example? Reviewing a project owned by a close family member. Number 3, engineer discovers bridge design does not meet minimum requirements. Should they approve the design anyway? What is the most ethical course of action? I would say when it comes to public safety, you have to go to your higher ups, go to your boss, and raise the issue again if the person that you're currently talking to doesn't think it's a big deal. Confidential information. An engineer leaves company, takes proprietary manufacturing processes to a competitor. What type of intellectual property has been violated? So I said this could be a confidentiality agreement. This could violate a patent if they had a patent on this design or were in the works of getting one. This could also violate an NDA, so non-disclosure agreement. So some different types of intellectual property. We have patents, so this protects inventions. Trademarks protects logos and brand names. So trademark, that little mark, you make your mark with a brand, a logo. Copyright, this protects original creative work. So this is for books, this is for songs, this is for any writing. That is what copyright is for. And then trade secret, this protects confidential business information. So if you have a specific way of how your business runs and you don't want anybody to know about it, that's where the trade secret comes in. Sustainability, which best demonstrates sustainable design? Selecting recyclable materials with lower environmental impact. I mean, when you look at these questions and the options, it'll make sense more, I think. Here, let me show you the questions I got. Here we go. Let me close out on this. So, like these ethics questions. Right here. Like, which one of these is conflict of interest? Reporting unsafe working conditions. Well, that you should already be doing. Reviewing a project owned by a close family member, that's the one we said is the option. Following OSHA regulations, you should already be doing that. Attending professional development seminars, that's not really conflict of interest, you're just developing your own career. So this is why this is the one that's conflict of interest, because it's your family member and you personally know them and you could make a profit off of that. And you're reviewing it even though you don't know all the facts. I mean, they should have to have a professional review it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the obvious choice. Usually these are obvious answers. Okay, sustainable design. So your options are choose lowest initial cost. That doesn't really have anything to do with sustainable. And then selecting recyclable materials. Maximizing energy consumption. That's not really sustainable, but okay. Ignoring maintenance cost. You probably shouldn't ignore your maintenance costs. That's a very big thing that you need to look at. So the option is B. But there you go. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover. And I personally find, like, law and stuff interesting and like all the different intellectual properties, and I've thought about I think I want to study some law eventually. In regards to engineering and all that. I think it would be fun. But that's all the things. All the problems. How are we feeling about that? Let's see. There we go. You have no brain? Well, you need to go find one. Go rent it off eBay. It might cost you like 100,000. I don't know how much a brain costs. I bet you would though. Okay. So, do y'all want to watch a statics lecture with me? This is an hour long. I don't have my headphones on. I mean, turned on. Y'all want to switch gears into me taking notes? Because I gotta take notes for this anyway. I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll be back though. Okay. Can y'all hear it? I don't know if y'all can hear it. This is a long one. And this is what I struggled with, so we gotta be locked in. Let me close all these tabs I got open. Ah, fit check. Hold up. Let me do a fit check real quick. Y'all like it? Is she cute? I got this red top on. I got this red baby tee on. And I got these black shorts. I don't know if y'all can see. There we go. The fit check. Okay. Let's take some notes. Y'all gonna take some notes with me on this? Or no? There's me. Okay. If you don't know, I have a YouTube channel. Seedling 1. Because it wouldn't let me have fresh like apples, so now we're Seedling 1. And I just uploaded this one. And I uploaded another one. Okay. Y'all want to take some notes? I don't know if I should do it on stream. I think it'll like mess up with how I'm gonna post it. How is Fortnite an indie game? Oh, it's their suggestions versus my recent one. Okay. I just be looking at stuff. I get distracted so easy by this stuff. Anyways. Okay, y'all want to watch this? Let me change to this. I keep clicking the wrong stuff. That one? Yeah. Okay. Statics. So we have resultance of force systems. Concurrent force systems. Equilibrium of rigid bodies. Frames and trusses. Centroids and moments of inertia. Static friction. So that's what we're covering in the problems. So topics covered via examples. Understanding vector addition. Slope triangles. LBF, LBM. Newton's second and third law. Support types. Moments. 2D and 3D. Trusses and frames. And centroid and moment of inertia. Static friction. Excuse me. Okay. I'm gonna draw some of these pictures on my little notebook. So we have a little triangle with a box and another weight, counterweight. And 30 degrees. Then we have another box. All kinds of boxes here. And then we have whatever that is. A crane? Crane looking thing. I think my problem is I don't draw stuff enough. Like, oh, I just need the words. I'll be okay. No, I think I need both the words and the drawings to understand a lot of things. And it doesn't even have to be like this in detail drawings. It can be like a little cat. No, I don't know. Experiencing net force of 120. Decompose result in all directions. A I can't read the question because his head's in the way. Alright, let's draw this picture. Okay. Understanding vectors. And resultant forces. Okay, so basically what he did is he set up these equations. So 120 over sine of 40. So 120 sine of 40. FA sine of 80. FA sine of 80 equals FB sine of 60. FB sine of 60. So those should all be the same. Law of sines is what he used. So FA, so if you just move this over here, you would get this. Move this over here, you would get this. Okay, let me put it in the calculator. So sine of 80 sine 40 times 120. 183, 184. Okay. And then I got 162. W. Okay. Okay. Let's draw our little picture here. Okay. Slope triangles. Right triangles. FBDs. Newton's third law. LBF versus LBM. Okay. How is he getting those? Okay. F of x equals 0. Okay, we're looking at A, right? So there's nothing in the x direction. But it's not a component. Oh no, we're looking at the x direction. Okay. And we're setting them all equal to 0. So the sine component of f of bc, right? Or no? No, it's the cosine. Cosine component minus the sine component minus the FAC sine component. What? Okay. I'm kind of hungry. I might take a lunch break and get back to this. Okay. F of x equals 0. Why did he write that? Fx, the sum of the forces in the x direction equals 0. Okay, so we're setting it all equal to 0. So in the x direction, we have, so this is the hypotenuse, and this is adjacent. So it's the cosine of this line. And we subtract this x direction, which is the sine of 30, because it's the opposite, right? And that equals to 0. Okay, now what is he writing? Is this the y direction now? So FBC 4/5, that's the sine component. This is a cosine, this is a sine. Okay. Plus cosine of that 30. I am so confused on why it's the sine, or this is the cosine and the sine and then the sine and the cosine. Is that what it's just supposed to be? Because there's two of them. And then he added because they're both up. But I don't understand why he chose cosine and sine. So if he goes to the right, it's the sine. Or, I mean, to the right it's the cosine. To the left it's the sine. There's no way. No, no, no. It's... How? Wait, kinda? No. Um, I don't know. I need to watch a video on this or something. What would you even call this though? But there's no angle here. Or is it just this angle? And then this angle? The direction and the Y and the direction and the X. So, or the X and then the Y. So you would have. So this is your X angle. So it's adjacent to the line and the angle between that line and the X direction. So that's adjacent. Okay. So then you get cosine. So over here, boom, boom, this is the angle. But this is the angle to X. So then this would be the opposite, right? So then you get sine. I think so. And then for the next one, up here, in regards, so this is the angle. And it's opposite of, wait, this is the angle. And you're trying to find this component. This is the hypotenuse. Wouldn't it always be the adjacent though? I think I'm missing something. Like, is this crazy? Maybe I'm thinking too deeply into this. But like, how do you know? I don't understand. I suck at geometry. Or trigonometry, really. No, this is the cosine, and that's the sine. So he did cosine of this one, and sine of this one. And then here we have sine of this one and cosine of this one. I don't know. I have to watch a video or something. Okay. Good. I'm not gonna lie. I did not get that one at all. I might have to go through it. But I'm gonna go get something to eat real quick. I don't know if y'all want to stay on here, but I'm gonna get off. So, but I'll be in the server probably. But I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.